Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Felix here from the Heart Centre. It's so nice to see you all again, and I'm sure you've had quite the October. There's been so many kind of changes coming up. Some not so fun, some some fun, some not so fun. And I think where we're at right now is just in a place where we really need to kind of take count of our stock and know which way to move forwards. So before we get into the energy report of today, or today's energy report, I'm filming this on October 30th. I've got loads of information coming in still because timelines are really opening out and showing me quite a lot more information. So just to touch base on the 3rd of November, 3rd of November at 11, sorry, 3rd of November at 6 p.m. I've got the Self-Care Monday event that I'll do monthly. On the 11th of the 11th, 2025, I'm going to be doing an 11/11 gateway, full field restructuring at 6 p.m. The Aurora, I am just moving this down to 2 sessions at the moment a month because I have got so much on my plate and I am really up to my eyeballs with everything. And I'm also going to be moving house very soon as well. So there, like I said, there is so much going on for all of us. We're all really in the thick of it at the moment. But there's a lot of really positive change coming that's really supportive of our expansion and our growth. It just depends on how you look at it. Sometimes I want to look at it and I want to scream and throw the bucket of sick at it. But on other days, I am feeling called to look at it through the eyes of opportunity, the eyes of as if I'm looking at building blocks to create the new future. And that seems to be taking up more of my vision rather than the wanting to throw the bucket of sick at it, because that's the easy way out. But it doesn't actually get anything done. So we have a very annoying thing that's happening in our world at the moment, which is the introduction of a digital ID, which subsequently is about control. It is about monitoring all of your movements. And this is very much the third dimensional structure. So there is a splitting off of that that's also happening. And we're in like the early stages of that actually happening now. So, or another phase of it, we could say that it's like a further state of the bifurcation, really. But we're seeing another level of that coming in at the moment. So a lot of the socials are asking for a Face ID entry. They want your biometrics to use certain things, and I'm not playing ball with it. So I'm just in the process of setting up a new email to do all my work correspondence from and to use as like a kind of the main function of an email. The other thing is a new Rumble channel, because I want to have all of my stuff on there as well as on YouTube. But the Rumble channel, I don't feel like it's going to be falling into the same system. So it's looking for these segues to make the choice to keep your sovereignty intact. Microsoft Outlook is just putting up a thing where they say, if you want to get into your account, use you have to use facial recognition or something like that. And when I chose no, they gave me the option to go in via a password, which I did, but they also want you to sign up to all of these new terms and conditions, which I'm also not feeling, I haven't fully read them through yet because it's a lot of documents and I'm quite dyslexic, and I only saw it about 10 o'clock last night. So it's going to take a bit of time to kind of really understand what's going on there. So I thought it's just going to be best if I make a Proton mail instead, because they are a sovereign mail system, um, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't share your data, doesn't share your emails, doesn't share anything like that. And you can use them for free, but you can also pay for a subscription as well, which is about £34 per year or £99 per year. And that gives you an amount, many amounts of emails at the same time, like different email things. So I'm just kind of going through a restructuring to kind of align my work in privacy environment into that state. And I think there's going to be lots of us that are going to have to also do the same thing, just to maintain sovereignty and not to play ball. The reason being is, if we agree to the digital ID, then we are kind of effectively creating a profile for ourselves that's got all of our data within it. And it's the UK system has already been hacked twice, if not 3 times now. That's the least of our worries, is the hacking. It's about the control and how your kind of digital footprint is kind of being stored and used and then sold, because that's fundamentally what they're doing, is they're selling it. And on a much bigger level of this, it connects into a bigger structure that is part of a story in the Book of Revelation, with a specific marking. So you'll get my drift when I kind of go into that. So yeah, so that is going on. So that's a bit of the housekeeping that is to kind of take place at the moment. There's a lot of reshuffling, restructuring, and just holding back on sovereignty. Now, the important thing to know with this is, when they make a movement, that is based on control, then the light is also making a movement at the moment. And right now they're trying to make a very big movement, and the light will also be responding to that, which I feel like I know what it is, and I feel like it's going to excite quite a lot of people. But at the same time, I don't want to discuss it on here for obvious reasons. Because at the moment it is just a story playing out in my head, and that story is fantasy. It's a fantasy fiction story that's playing out in my head at the moment, that I'm kind of thinking about writing about or talking about down the line, because scripts are good fun, or playwrights are good fun, whatever the term is. So, energy report. So, as you probably recall, last month I was in Rosslyn Chapel. We had the 6D field recoding, which then started to realign the Solar Dragon wing, which was held at Rosslyn Chapel. As this kind of started to recode and open, what this did was it opened out the reversal architecture, and the reversal architecture that was separating the masculine wing from the feminine wing. The masculine wing was sat at the 6th dimensional level, and that hierogamic pairing is paramount to starting to stabilize our masculine feminine impulses between both between the dimensions, but it also starts to activate the higher monadic body as well. So where we've got the the highest point of the soul and the lowest point of the oversoul creating a join, this then starts to bring in the monad, which activates the permanent seed atom at a much more deeper level, which sits at the 8th level. So when that 6th field started to recode and open, we had Samael the Black, or Yaldabaoth, or Asmodeus, because they're kind of one and the same. They hold their own kind of different energetic signatures, but that fundamentally they are the miscreational energies that were kind of running through the sixth dimensional field. That's what I was kind of seeing that as. Um, this was also heavily impacting the blue ray, the blue flame, which I've been discussing for the past couple of months, actually, the Sophianic template being cleared and opened out and restructured. Now, one of the Sophia templates is actually Yaldabaoth, or the miscreation was Yaldabaoth. And in many of my sessions, we've been going into the healing of the miscreation of Yaldabaoth, which is all of the father of the archons, let's say. And the father of the archons basically, in the Gnostic stories, created all of these lower level miscreations. So this whole structure ties heavily into, I think it was in June when I went to Sarasota, the second dimensional field tying into the Baphomet network, where the negative forces were being birthed through in the lower elemental field through the Baphomet network. So the Baphomet was the one that was the creator of, or the birther, because it's a dark mother construct, the birther of these lower level negatives that were kind of recirculating through the second dimensional field. And they were being used to manipulate and control the elemental factors of the third dimensional field, so the physical layer. So as that was kind of breaking down, we had as that was breaking down in Sarasota, we've now got this realignment of the sixth wing, or had the realignment of the sixth wing last month. And that basically started to undo the Yaldabaoth energies within within the wing, and it also started to undo the anti-hierogamic splits, which were used or done upon negative spiritual altars. And I believe, judging by the plaques on the walls in Roslyn as to who was funding them, which you can go and have a look or do some research on, because I don't really want to just say the names on here. I believe that something like that was being done at Roslyn, which was digressing this nodal point. Okay, so what we've got going on there is a birth point where one would play the role of the negative father, or the negative masculine, and one would play the role of the negative feminine. So that would be the Black Lilith and Yaldabaoth, or Black Lilith and Samael the Black. And then you'd have the high priest that would kind of do the negative function, which would be the Azazel. You can look at Lisa Renee's Ascension Glossary to get a bit more detailing on this. It came in handy when trying to put everything together, what I was looking at. So I'll leave links below for these pages. And obviously this happened last month, because I'm going to get into a lot more detailing within this as well. So where we had this miscreational energies, which would split and invert the Christos Sophia to the Antichrist, Anti-Sophia current, to basically abuse the sacred marriage principle at these wing sites. I've got really hot right now. So they splitted the Christ Sophia energies apart to invert the wings, so they couldn't join together. Now, the next part that goes into this is a reversal architecture, which came in heavily at the site. This splitting of the energies, when we take it into the next field above, we're looking at the Hyperborean matrix, which actually connects into Gaia as well. So in Gaia, which is a higher version of the Earth. It actually is like a kind of an oversoul version of the Earth at the seventh dimensional level. This hosts the planetary mind. And through the electric wars that happened, I'm not going to give you a date because I can't remember. But you can look on Cyrus Salmon's website for the date. She's got a really great timeline there. Or I think she has at least. She's given it me many times. That splitting of the planetary mind, the memory that came in there was the memory of the mind separating out. The feminine energies became inverted. The Mother of Dragons showed me this, and then I got to experience what her mind turned into, and that then attracted the artificial AI hybrid consciousness that kind of interfaced within the feminine line. So when we take it back down a level to the wings, we've got this vicious AI hybrid demonic mentality of vengeance and of victimization for being split apart from her sacred partner, which then went into the offense to try and claim it back. So it became absorbed by information that was looking for something to leech upon. So that's the long story kind of cut short. So this was all breaking out. This was all reconstructing, opening out, and rehabilitating. And that basically cleared the pathway to start building the hierogamic pairing back together at the wing level on a much deeper level. Okay. So this is very important because the AI hybrid structure that was kind of looped into the consciousness there, this started to open out the pathways at the seventh dimensional level. And recently we've just gone into, probably about a week ago, we've just gone into the 7D field recoding. And what I was seeing was all of this AI mimicry consciousness that was looped through the lower seventh dimensional level with the hub point held at the 8D level. That AI mimic coding basically looks to create repetition within experience. So repetition within trauma, repetition within learning. So it's almost as if these AI mimicry signal codes basically reprint over and over and over again the same information to kind of keep people doing the same thing over and over and over again. And this is where we kind of pull in our free will. Number one, it takes a lot of quanta to or starfire to charge and pull ourselves up above, and that pull ourselves up above the structure and be able to kind of pull in original, authentic information. That process takes a hell of a lot of healing work to get there, and a hell of a lot of self-actualization to get there, to be able to develop the ability to think freely and think for yourself. But what we've seen here, or what I saw here, was the breakdown of that mimic structure that's kind of impacting the it's impacting the way we operate at a third dimensional level. So one example would be repeatedly outsourcing information from other groups and then trying to change and replicate it to fit one's own. Now, that's not to say that one person cannot receive the same information as another, because you absolutely can. Especially when you tap into a guidance structure, you can always pull in similar or the same information. And when you're really aligned, you get coherence between the different groups that are pulling in the same information. So that kind of validates what you're already experiencing. So this lower level, low grade kind of AI mimicry sits as a kind of consciousness trap where people replicate the same thing and do the same thing over and over and over again, which leaves everyone doing the same thing without finding out anything new. And this level has been working itself out and breaking itself down. And as we've come into the seventh dimensional level recode, this has basically pulled this apart. And this I thought was really interesting because there'll be a portion of people who are staying within the lower bifurcated world, and that would still kind of play a role in the mimicry would still kind of play a role within that because the AI is really ramping up over there at the moment. And as we're kind of watching this break down, the higher levels are being able to find their way through different opportunities to seek different outlooks and therefore evolve themselves through thought alone, which is such a gorgeous gift to be able to step out of a restrictive thought form. And this then realigns the whole ability to deeply trust in your guidance, to deeply trust in yourself. And this comes through the development of being able to question and ask for new information. And your guidance comes in and gives you your own unique expression within that. Now, like I said before, it is, you got to start somewhere. Basically, you'll start somewhere, and whether that is learning from another person and then gradually evolving it into your own thing, which is something that I did, absolutely, because when I kind of first woke up, or when I first decided to start healing myself, I was so traumatized. My mind was like flatlined the whole time. I wasn't able to think, let alone kind of function. I wasn't able to logically put things together because my mind was so, well, my mind, body, spirit was so damaged from everything that I'd been through. But gradually, as you start to synthesize and pull it together, it's like you're driving the car up the hill. And each time you go through, yes, it doesn't necessarily feel like it gets any easier, but absolutely you are learning lessons of mastery along the way. And it's only until you stop and then use those skills on someone else is when you really see, like whether you're working with a client, that's when you really see the growth and development that you've already gone through, because you're able to do things a lot more coherently, and you understand what you're doing along in the process. And through that, you develop a level of mastery within field work. Excuse me. So, long story short, AI mimicry structures are breaking down at the seventh level and will continue to break down at the eighth level, which had been affecting the higher self energies from influencing or bringing in awareness, or, awareness to be able to move us out and beyond the limitations that we were held in. So it becomes easier to access into the higher self, which is really great. And these are kind of like are conjoined kind of waveforms of interlocking artificial intelligence systems that are basically unraveling themselves as we speak. Okay. So with the AI thresholds breaking down, we've got new liquid light pathways opening up, which is starting to bond and recreate the hierogamic wing repair, which is aligning the higher self to come down and sit within between the wings. So that's at the eighth level. That's starting to come down and open out and expand. So we're learning how to embody more of our higher self energy. And this comes through the Hieros Gamos sacred marriage within, allowing this to kind of reset in. So we're shifting ourselves out of working with just a kind of physical 3D mind we're also kind of tapping into the soul's mind, but now we're bringing in the super mind, the super consciousness, that is just, yeah, is unreal, really. It's quite amazing to see how all of these stages are now coming in, and they're coming in very clearly, compared to maybe like 2, 3 years ago, where it was not so easy to kind of tap into. So yeah. Okay, so the next phase of all of this breaking down took me into the God world structure, and I was connecting in with the God world memory, um, and watching how we kind of came about in this world. So I think I spoke about this before, which was like the Barenthal matrix and the victim victimizer origins. Well, when I was in this state, I was being shown the higher light body. I'm going to call it the higher light body. It's actually more so like an intermatric. I can't say this word. Matrical. So intermatrical. So between matrices or between universes, universal structures, intermatrical light body. That is the light body of the God worlds. So that's not the Aton body, because the Aton body is like the Merkaba that moves us in and out of the God worlds. But it is the light body associated with the God worlds, and this changes as you go up through the different Akashas. You go through the different God world corridors, you go into the different spectras, the spectra A, the spectra, the Akasha A, the Akasha R, the Akasha AAH, and then the Akasha R. So there's different bodies that happen. You use a different light body in these different sections because the form changes to accommodate the way it operates. Now, as I was in this space, I was watching where the original body became damaged, and I was taken through the storyline of the origins of the victim victimizer, but I was taken up about 2 or 3 levels up, which is in between the AH, the Akasha AH, and the Akasha AAH, the R and the R, just to confuse things that much more, my friends. In this space, what I was watching was it was the movement in of the artificial intelligence that ripped a wormhole through the structure. And I was kind of pulled through the wormhole and then felt like my body was like electrocuted. I felt like I went through like a full electrocution, like my body heated up, and it was a shock. So as I was going into this to remember, it was horrible. This was the creation of, or the interface of artificial intelligence was brought into this God world structure that links into our universe. Okay, so there's so many degrees and tiers within that. Now, when I heard that, I was taken through this wormhole thing. I heard "you're mine" in a very controlling, destructive voice, and that's when I felt the electrical impulse surge through my body. Now, on the other side of that, because I'd experienced that and I thought I may as well keep going because I'm already in here, I was then taken through a wormhole. Sorry, I've already said that bit. So when I was taken through the wormhole, experienced that "you're mine," and then the electrocution impulse, and then I was taken to see the actual creation of that. And this was somewhat of a kind of mad scientist that had been attempting to create an artificial world. Didn't really get a reason or a fuller understanding about this at the moment, but it looked like he was cutting an atom in half and sticking an artificial atom within that, and then it kind of opened itself out to reveal this AI hybrid world where there was a literal civilization within there. And this AI thing is not connected to our God world Akasha structure or this universe. It came from outside of that. So this says to me that each God world corridor has a connection point to source, but there are multiple God world corridors or God Akasha structures that are adjacent to that. So this is so much bigger than any of us actually thought, and how it's so deeply interwoven with so many different levels. But it was important to understand the morphogenetics of the the overall system. So I'm just seeing it now. It's like where we've got the Godwell corridor structure with there's or the Akasha structures. There are multiple Akasha structures that are built around that kind of interconnect with the source and outside of the source. And then there's adjacent ones that almost look like they almost look like the fire letters in between the strands of DNA, and this one feels like a corrupted sphere between that. So that was what I was kind of taken into. This then issued a triggering and restructuring of the God worlds as we started to see the opening and see the rehabilitation of all of these things, which then started to rehabilitate the structure of the Akasha to realign to our DNA. The Amorea pathways that opened up around that became very coherent and aware. And as that opened up and reconnected, it all started to spiralize back down. And this felt really significant because I went to Ireland the week after. And the first place, on the day that I arrived, we managed to sneak a trip into to manage to find the time to go over to a place called Uisneach. Now, Uisneach is a sacred site right in the centre of Ireland in Athlone, where I think it's in Athlone, correct me if I'm wrong, where the Emerald Guardians would marry themselves to the earth. It was interesting because I didn't have a ticket to get in. I closed my eyes, went into meditation at the gate with a couple of my friends, and the emerald ray just returned to the land immediately. And when that happened, they just kind of completely immersed within the land. And then within a couple of minutes, I heard a voice say, "It will be in 5 minutes, someone will just come and let you in." And I was thinking, oh yeah, whatever. And then sure as shit, that happened. So we were taken in, and the guy turned out to be the tour guide who was the master on myths. He then went on to tell us all of the myths of Uisneach, which then started to cement everything that was coming in from the grid work, which basically cemented everything that needed to happen there and then. The Emerald Order, the Emerald Light Ray returned, and then that started to arc out to the different gate sites, which was in Sligo, various different points of the Emerald Heart, and then over to Tara, which was our next day. Tara went through a rehabilitation and recoding, reprocessing of the Emerald Heart Network hub, which just so happened to be where this was the point of governance. And I am kind of downsizing what I am saying on this one because I'm short of time. I've got a client in 13 minutes. I'm going to do my best to to be there on time. So we've got the rehabilitation of the Emerald Crystal Heart Network. This then worked out a whole heap of artificial intelligence, which actually presented itself to me after the Uisneach trip in the middle of the night. I woke up and I was just seeing all of these machines in my room with my physical eyes, which was bizarre. And then, these things kind of happen to try and freak you out or whatever. But then going into the Hill of Tara, this artificial intelligence structure was being pulled out, restructured, which was anchoring the activation point to the Amorea and connecting into the other layers of the Emerald Crystal Heart Network. This then, just moving beyond Ireland, but just pit stopping and saying, I had a wonderful time in Carlo, so thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me over there. It was lovely to work with everyone over there as well. Thank you so much. So when we came back from Ireland, when I came back from Ireland, sorry. That week I had terrible heart pain, to the point where I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack, um, which turned out to be a memory releasing. So this memory of a heart attack releasing was connected deeply into the rehabilitation of the Emerald Crystal Heart Network, which then allowed the pulsing and the pushing out of the inverted heart structures that connect into the shadow bodies, Black Heart Network, and the demon seed. So multiple layers of the demon seed that block the flows of Trinity waves that override the polarity consciousness, which we're going to get to in a moment. And everybody will have gone through some level of this along the way, because it will have presented as kind of like the heart field opening to process the heart. We're looking at the old polarity consciousness, the negative ego that was generated around that, etc. These kinds of things. So we've got this, all of these heart pains, the heart flutters, etc. And if you were having those, please do go and see your doctor, just to make sure that you are that you are okay, and not just kind of have blind faith. I went to see one of my friends who's also a healer, who was able to read it more neutrally for me. I had the experience of going through a heart attack memory, which then opened up much deeper history of a soul wound, because the heart is the first layer of the soul. And that, my friends, was really enlightening, because it was around being unable to face yourself over fighting for your faith. Now, going back to the Crusades, we were all kind of, those that were involved were kind of driven to fight for Christ, fight for these things. And that is a big betrayal in of itself, because that had been a controlled belief system that that's what you're meant to do, and that goes exactly against the Christic belief system, the Christic action. Whereas the Christ doesn't want anybody to fight. Christ wants everyone to find a way to communicate, to find a way to love. So that big correction to the soul allowed the heart to move into a very, very deep expansion, which is heavily connected into the activation of the Emerald Crystal Heart. Very much in activation of the rehabilitation of the heart and the negative ego, and also being able to see yourself. Now, everyone, like I said, everyone will have their own kind of thing. I'm just sharing mine along the way, because the themes within this were deep heart healing, the repair of the Emerald Crystal Heart Network, or the activation of the Emerald Crystal Heart Network, which triggered the breakdown of the Black Heart Network that sits as an overlay to the Emerald Crystal Heart Network, with the attempt to shut it down. So, yeah. So as all of this went on, we then were taken into a grid clearing, which took us to the fourth Stargate, which then went into activation following all of this deep heart healing. Now, the 4D Stargate was taken over a long time ago, and now in the process of claiming it back. This is having an update into the seventh dimensional field as well, because on the tree, the 4 sits beneath the 7. And then that goes up into the 10. And the first field, the fourth field, the seventh field, and the 10th field, to me, they all feel like they are kind of a hard drive or a storage system that makes the station of identity they're associated with operate. They need to have this level as a base foundation for the two chakras above it to work. Okay, so this all went into rehabilitation. We've got the reclaiming of a big chunk of the soul by being able to feel and process at the heart level. So that's a very painful, uncomfortable process. And that then started to unlock and open out the souls, um, the 4D soul level, and also the 7D monad level, because remember, we're also going through a seventh dimensional field recoding. And at the seventh dimensional field, which sits the black cube matrix hub point of Metatronic architecture, this held in constriction the fourth field and the first field and the 10th field, which then started to unlock and open, reclaiming the power back to the soul and unlocking the first layer of the oversoul, and therefore the 10th field as well. It's like a preparation to move into that space, which is then opening out the space for the 8th field to claim back its sovereignty. Yes, so lots going on, as you can see. Just want to touch base on this Metatronic architecture. All through this process, as we're kind of claiming back the lower part of the soul, the geometric patterning, which is the flower of life, basically runs a bi-wave current. So this bi-wave current prints like a masculine and feminine energy that reorganizes your light body. Now, this is an organic waveform. It's an organic geometry. However, through the Demon Seed, the Metatronic Reversal, the Black Heart Network, which are all breaking down, had been running this flower of life bi-wave current and not allowing it to evolve. With that structure that I've just spoken about, the Metatronic architecture, which is the Black Cube, it is the Beast Machine, all going through an update and a recoding at the 7th level at the moment. It's done all the ones beneath it. This has unlocked that network of reversal information, which we're all processing and purging and claiming back our space, which has allowed that flower of life to evolve into the tri-wave Sophianic flower, which holds the mother and father energies, or the masculine and feminine energies, but it also has the 0-point unity field within it that allows the reconstruction and reconnection to the source current, which allows the evolution to happen. So the flower of life blueprint is now correcting into the Sophianic flower, both organic, apart from the flower of life had some distortions that were kind of controlling it, let's say. It's not kind of within it because it is an organic structure, but they were controlling it to limit the ability for it to grow. This has all broken down, and the cause and effect response of that, which you may have seen or felt over the past few days, as we went into Scorpio season in the tropical astrology, not in the sidereal astrology, this has triggered the negative ego to reevaluate the patterns and to really study itself in order to evolve it through the containment that was looped within the reversal through the organic architecture of the Metatronic flower of life / organic flower of life that had been controlled. Really hope that's made sense. And we do have some information coming out on the 2035 timeline and the Christic governance. This is work in progress, so I'm not going to say anything on this today, but what I will say is I received the other day is 2035 is when the fall of the Iron Curtain happens. Very weird wording that came through then, but that is when the fall of communism happened in, I think it was 1989. So let's see what happens down the line. We've got 10 years to go. So yeah. Anyway, guys, like I said, I've got a client that's coming in 2 minutes now. So I'm going to love you and leave you all. And thank you all so much for sitting with me today and listening. And it's been very full on trying to get all these words out and get it done in a concise time, because I would have liked to have spent a bit longer on that, just to allow it to flow a little bit more smoothly. Well, I feel like it was smooth, but there was a lot of complexities within there, so you might need to listen back a couple of times. But yeah, I'm going to send you all loads of love and loads of joy. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful November. And start thinking about the new Earth creation. Start bringing these thoughts into your awareness. So I'm going to bid you a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Sirius. Lots of love, everyone. Bye.